The following story is also available as a read-only version. Check the link in the description if you're interested. Class 10? Are you fucking serious? Bozeman asked. Competence has its downsides, Joel, Cortez answered with a shrug. What if I pass? And violate the Peterson Act? Face it, you're the highest rated hunter in 3 states. This is your duty as an officer of the court. Cortez was saying things Bozeman already knew. Can I at least get a hand? Sessions is free, and he's got the rating. You sure you want to split the bounty? Cortez raised an eyebrow. Yeah, I want to fucking split the bounty. Bozeman hit the desk with his flat hand. I'd rather be alive than dead and a few thousand richer. Jesus Christ, Cortez, have you been in this office so long you've forgotten what's out there? Cortez made a gesture like a zookeeper calming a wild animal. Look, they executed the guy 3 days ago. His Sinbeast probably hasn't even formed yet. Who knows? He might end up being a Class 9 and then you'll still get paid for a Class 10. Isn't bureaucracy amazing? He laid a sheet of paper on the table and handed Bozeman a pen. It was the contract on the Sinbeast of one Angelo Martinelli, issued by the Montana Office of Sinbeast Extermination. I die from this? My Sinbeast is coming for your ass, Cortez. That night, on a small pier in the north of Canyon Ferry Lake, Joel Bozeman and Anthony Sessions entered the police motorboat they had commandeered. The half-moon was slowly rising above the mountains, and, aside from a few meager clouds, the star-spangled firmament was clear. This is pretty okay far as serial killer stamping grounds go, Sessions noted. I remember Detroit was never as nice looking as this. Well, at least we'll have some pretty scenery when we die, Bozeman said dryly. You sure he's gonna form as a sea monster? Asked Sessions. He stole rich girls on vacation and drowned them in this very lake. They called him the Canyon Ferry Lake Kraken. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gonna form as a sea monster. There was a moment of silence, and the only sound was the soft splatter of water against the hull of the boat. I fought a sea monster once, Sessions reminisced. Gangster kid. Saw his brother get shot at Lake Sinclair. Got real mad. Went on a shooting spree against the people who did it. Died himself, of course. Not very strong, but slippery as hell, that one. He come back as a kraken? Nah, just a water zombie. Scary eyes, though. Sessions took his binoculars to scan over Cemetery Island half a mile away. Police radio started blaring. We got a big bogey. Might be what you fellas are looking for, said the dispatcher with a voice much calmer than it should have been. Then again, she was sitting safely over in Helena. To the west, first inlet below Cave Bay. We'll send a patrol car to help you guys out. Obviously, this person had never heard of a Class 10 before. Don't. Your officers are not trained for this. We'll take over from here, Bozeman responded. Alrighty then, was the answer. Sessions gave Bozeman a baffled, yet somewhat amused look. Clearly, he had never dealt with a Class 10 either, and was underestimating the situation. The motor of their little police boat roared, and Bozeman gave it the spurs to cross the lake. Their target became clear the moment they laid eyes on it. A squat, shingle-roofed building not quite as luxurious as the ones surrounding it. Then again, those weren't exactly villas either. The lights were flickering erratically, and the entire building was shivering, as though caught inside an earthquake. Just a taste of what a Class 10 was capable of. Sessions at the house scoped in through a sniper rifle but didn't see anything, and the jury-rigged sonar of the police boat caught nothing of interest going on in the water beneath them. Carefully, Bozeman maneuvered the boat to the shore and tied it to the rotten pier. He grabbed his HK-416 assault carbine, loaded with silvered, depleted uranium hollow points coated in cyanide, and slowly made his way on land, Sessions in tow. Bozeman switched back and forth between the night vision and heat scan modes of his scope, and saw massive heat anomalies inside the house, which was shaking so violently now that he feared it might be ripped apart. Spots of extreme heat melded with areas of Arctic cold, separating again as though the laws of physics didn't command them to merge. The back door was open, and the second Bozeman stepped inside, the shaking stopped, and the temperature went back to normal. All the lights were turned on. The house was almost completely empty, not even any furniture around except for an old refrigerator standing in the middle of the room. The barrel of his gun pointed at the chrome-plated appliance, Bozeman opened the fridge, only to recoil at what was inside. "Jesus fuck!" he exclaimed at the sight of the severed head of a man in his early 50s. "Oh shit, that's disgusting," said Sessions, grimacing. "This is something Martelli pulled, one of his first murders," Bozeman remembered. He killed the girl's dad, then imitated his voice on the phone to lure her out to the lake from Great Falls. "He do that often?" Sessions asked. "Lure folk by imitating voices?" Shit. That exact moment, the entire house started moving. Bozeman stumbled and fell over. It was as though the entire hillside was being dragged into the lake, boat, pier and all, into a black gullet rimmed with razor-sharp teeth. The two hunters were slammed against the ceiling, then the floor, and when Bozeman came back to a few seconds later, it was dark, hot, and damp. The sound of wet flesh slapping on wet flesh was all around him, and the soft, warm ground was pulsating softly. The stench was disgusting. This was what a Class 10 looked like. Calmly, his animal instinct of panic bubbling beneath the thin cover of his first-class professional training, he reached around to find his rifle lying next to him. Oh no, wait, it was only the scope, ripped from the weapon, but still intact, and with some charge remaining in its internal capacitor. It was still in night vision mode, which was just as well because the switch was on the butt of the gun, and heat vision would help him little in here. He felt something soft touching his leg, like a tentacle, and, with a reflexive motion, pulled his machete and severed it clean. He held the scope over his left eye and looked around. He was inside some flesh chamber, the tissue around him moving to the beat of some distant, gigantic heart. The way behind him was closed, and the way ahead was crawling with tentacles just like the one he'd just cut. This was going to be nasty. Striking wildly with his machete at anything that tried to make a grab for him, he moved forward down the slight incline that this flesh tube made. He could have stood up in here, but Bozeman proceeded ducked, some dark primal fears deep inside him clawing at the bars of their cages in the zoo of his mind. The zookeepers were drill sergeants, soldiers, and combat instructors, and not even their cacophony of angry shouting, words of camaraderie, and calm instructions was going to keep them chained up much longer. He arrived at a small vortex of interlocking tentacles blocking the way. Bozeman put the scope in his pocket, grabbed the machete with both his hands, and went wild on the things in the dark. A wail of pain went through the Sinbeast's body, and Bozeman grinned. Shouldn't have eaten a guy with a big-ass sword. When the path was clear, he stepped into a large, cavernous chamber the size of a small airplane hangar. This Sinbeast had to be destroyed soon, otherwise it would devour everything around the lake. A pool of stinking liquid covered almost the entire ground, barely knee-high as far as Bozeman could tell. On a small islet he could see Sessions, his extremities contorted in impossible ways, and his torso stretched to the point of almost ripping apart. He was bound by tentacles, and was quickly being broken down by the acidic liquid. A drop of it landed on the back of Bozeman's hand and he shrieked in pain. It was like sour fire burning through his skin. He needed to find the boat. The boat was the only way to kill this thing. Retching from the smell, Bozeman looked around to find it leaning against the stomach wall, not far from where Sessions lay. Bingo. Keeping close to the shore, which was barely a foot wide, and careful to slice at any tentacles coming for his ankles, he made his way to the boat, tipped it over, and climbed inside. There, in the back, was a small metal box, just what he'd been looking for. He pushed the boat back to the entrance, grabbed the box by the handle, and made his way back up the tube. Sinbeasts defied logical physiology, but they did follow human imagination. If he was inside the thing's throat, he was also near the arteries and the rest of the head. Inside the box were hand-sized C4 torches with spikes in the bottom. Grinning, Bozeman began sticking them in the walls of the chamber he'd woken up in. He was almost done with all of them when he heard the rushing of water coming from the mouth. The Sinbeast was trying to drown him. This would have to do. "Fuck you, Cortez," he said, and triggered the detonator. If you liked this story and would like to hear more, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. A new short story is uploaded every Wednesday, and there will occasionally be another one in between if I find the time. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.